You're listening to We Deepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder and CEO of We Deepen, Feminine Weapon, and also a certified professional love coach. If you do enjoy this podcast, please do like, subscribe, follow, rate it, give it 5 stars. It helps more people find it, helps me continue to record it. And if you haven't lately, go check out the calendar at wedeepen.com. See all the upcoming social and transformational experiences. And you will also see there's a new tab called the Love Club. It's a work in progress. You can go ahead and be one of the early applicants, the one to submit into the matchmaking database, and also to find out more sooner than others about the Love Club that's in development. This is going to be a year-long membership program that you can continue year after year that focuses on elevating your love life. Whether, at the beginning of this, I was going to say whether you're currently single or in relationship, but at the beginning, we're going to start with those who are currently single. And matchmaking itself is a luxury item. For me to do one-on-one matchmaking work, it's going to be, upwards of $15,000. However, this Love Club, it'll put all of us into an accelerator, into a group experience together with immersions, education, experiences, unique facilitators and connections, lots of surprises along the way. And as I'm even talking with other events, for instance, the microdosed Wonderland Conference. It's a psychedelic longevity mental health conference coming up in Miami in 2023, November 9th through the 11th. The early members of the Love Club will get free access to the $700 ticket experience. So I got lots in store for you. I'm going to work my magic for this particular group. So check that out. You'll see a very thorough application process where I ask all of the questions like, what growth work have you done? Why is finding a healthy relationship important to you at this time in your life? And one of my favorite questions too, I ask, once you're in relationship, what are you willing to do to keep it vibrant? And those answers that you can check off the box include therapy, coaching, attend couples retreats. Once you're in relationship, that's what we want. We want a partner who's willing to grow with us and do the work together. So check that out. Today, I'm going to have a casual girl conversation with Anna Bliss, who is in Los Angeles. Anna and I have been friends, acquaintances for a couple years now, and I've always admired her intuitive ability to speak the truth without holding anything back. And I've noticed that from her Facebook post. It became very apparent when, the world was breaking down momentarily during the peak of the pandemic. And what Anna was posting, I was like, oh, this girl's got some wisdom. I want to get closer to her. I feel very related. I can relate to what she's speaking. So Anna, thank you for jumping in with me on this Thursday morning from Los Angeles.
Hi, good morning. Hello, everyone. So happy to be here with you.
And to give a little background on you, you support people energetically, spiritually in their love lives and as they're navigating, I guess, the existence of being alive at this time. Is that accurate?
Yes. So my official title is a hypnotherapist and quantum energy healer. And within that, I help navigate people back into themselves. And that has to do with self-love, which is the main place from which we give all love and have cultivate all relationships. It's basically the first relationship we have is with ourselves, and how we love ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we honor, value ourselves. That's how we're going to treat and love everybody else around us. And I realized this a few years into doing healing work, hypnosis healing work, is that it's the most important thing is the relationship that we have with ourselves, because that's where we have our personal power. That's where we have our authenticity. That's where we channel from. That's where we connect to the earth, to God, to cosmos, to everything, to all the people around us. And so the most important relationship we have is the one with ourselves. So I help guide people back into that relationship, to have a positive, healthy, happy relationship, and to remember that we have the power within to change our lives, to manifest anything we want, to heal our bodies, to heal our relationships, and to bring healing to the world. And it all starts with the self.
So we're having this conversation in the height of Venus retrograding in Leo. And there's a lot of shakeups happening right now. And you and I, initially I reached out to you to record this episode when I could sense that there was breakup energy happening in your ethers. And I'm kind of experiencing some breakup energy my way as well. And I know our situations, our personal situations are unique in what we've experienced. And both of us being, gosh, I don't want to say, that would sound crazy to say midlife, because it's not midlife, but in this, early 40s, and having navigated many romantic relationships. And we can talk about like self-love, and there's this thing, like, the conversation around unconditional love, like expansive love, the love for ourselves, the love for another. And when we pair bond with another individual, or we dive deep into intimacy, lots of stuff comes up. There's wounding patterns within us. And I've recently pulled back from a connection, a beautiful connection that I was having. And it was very abrupt. It was like the universally, the message to do it felt abrupt to me. And maybe it was even coming from a reactionary space in my own wounding and the stories that I was making up, because the mind wants to protect the heart. But it's interesting because the heart doesn't really need to be protected. And I'm in the space of contemplation on remaining, having an open heart within our relational experiences, but also knowing when to redirect the energy and to trust the process that's happening, because the mind sometimes can't even fully understand.
Yes. Well, it's beyond understanding. The soul is what drives us ultimately. And then we have the mind, and then we have the human body. And ultimately, I do believe that we are timeless beings experiencing this life in a time, right? Everything in this world is very timed. Everything's everyone has to fit a certain category to make sense. When people ask me how old I am, I actually say that I'm timeless. And that kind of shuts them up from asking further questions. Because it's interesting. Like, I don't feel like I look like my age. It's just wild to even think of myself. Like, I'm in my 40s now. It's like beyond like what I even thought my, life would look like at this time. So, there's all these like, these preconceived like ideas of what we're supposed to be like, look like, have our life be. And it's not like that, essentially, because our spirit is infinite and timeless, and it seeks experiences. And it wants us to be free and to love. And so what happens in this process of being human, we accumulate karma, we have, bad experiences, traumas, like all these things kind of like bring us to different people, and we have to learn lessons to evolve. And so that's more from the perspective that I come from, is that we are eternal, infinite beings having experience, a human experience. And it doesn't have to make sense. You can be any age, you can have children, you can not have children, you can be married, not married, you could be divorced. People have all kinds of different experiences, and it's all good as long as you're happy, as long as you're living an authentic life, fulfilled. And that's the point ultimately.
So let's get a little more personal. How did you know in this last relationship that you're in, how did you know that it was time to end it?
Well, I had a feeling for a while because it didn't feel good. And this is the guiding point for me, is what feels good. I usually, quote unquote, follow my bliss. I follow my joy. I follow my internal guidance. And I usually get led by that, like what feels good. And I get led by my heart a lot because I love very deeply, like yourself. And I love love, and I'm a romantic, and I'll do anything for love, and I'll go the extra mile and to the end of the universe. And I think that everyone else is like that. I think that men are like that. And I do think that there's some men like that, but I think just generally women are more evolved. We are more like intuitive. We're more, kind of like women are from Venus, men are from Mars. We're almost like different species, and we're trying to make it work and meet each other in the middle. And so what was happening with my relationship is we're trying to meet in the middle, and there was disparity with the age, and there's other factors, lifestyle choices, and cultural differences, I'd say. But most importantly, the choices. And while I was coming from a place of choosing love, I didn't feel that was happening on the other side. And so we just kind of drifted apart more and more. And then it was harder to come back into the place of love. The more you separate, the more you make the other person, as opposed to being one team, one unified, one being, right? Like that's the ultimate place that we fall in love, is when we merge bodies and sex, when we have that deep soul love making experience, when our minds meet each other and we make each other laugh, and we can connect with someone who understands us. And that's when we fall in love. And that's where all these chemicals go off in our bodies, like, right, like serotonin and dopamine and all the like cuddle love hormones. And we call it love. And there's a deeper aspect of this kind of relating. There's also karma involved in these relationships. And what I'm noticing is that a lot of people these past few months that I've known, couples, I know at least 7 couples who I thought were power couples, who I thought were they're going to make it no matter what. They're so beautiful and radiant. And they all had, separation. They all
7?
broke up
Did you say
around
7?
the same. Yes. And it's was shocking, and I was just looking around and I was like, wow, what's going on here? So then I dug deeper and it turns out it has to do with stars. It has to do with planets. It has to do with, right? Venus is retrograde right now. Jupiter is retrograde. Mercury is retrograde. It's like, there's a lot of planets that are right now in retrograde. And so what that means is like, it pulls us apart. It pulls energies out of us. It brings us to greater self-realizations and learnings and experiences. And sometimes you have the greatest experience learning and growing in yourself while being on your own, while detaching from a love partnership that you thought was it, that you thought this was your person. But in reality, we are our own person. We are it. We have to cultivate that love from within and not trauma bond with another, not have codependent relationships, and get out of this false twin flame matrix belief systems, because all of that means that you're giving your power away to somebody else to give you love, to give you self-worth, validation, and all of that just leads you from not having that within yourself. So as a spirit, as a being, as an energy in a human body, we want to evolve. And we are in a time of evolution, of great evolution. And so on this journey, we are evolving, and the ultimate evolution is within. And to become our own soulmates, our own twin flames, our own beloveds, our own lovers, our own healers, our own gurus, our own gods, and not give our power away to anyone else outside. We have that within. And I think that's what this all is coming to.
So all of that sounds beautiful. I got to push back a little though, because yes, we're all inside our own universe and we have everything that we need. However, we do need each other at the same time. I mean, speaking as a heterosexual woman, it's hard to not see a man's body and the way that it so beautifully fits within a woman's body. Like there's such deep intimacy when you are that you can have with another human being that you cannot have on your own. Like, give me a vibrator and give me my hands and they can explore my own body, but they can only go so far. When I look into somebody else's eyes, I can see the reflection back to me. And without that feedback, then I am essentially none to exist. I only exist because you exist too. And so we're in this experience together and we do have this longing to become one with another. So there's a complexity, there's a paradox, I'll say, that we have to manage with inside of this, because there's is like a, being within your own vortex, or like creating your own vortex, but then your vortex is dancing with other vortexes, and it does enjoy the dance with others as well. And there does times when you don't want the dance to end because the dance is so good. And sometimes, I think it's only natural that when there's a disconnection from the dance, that there's a longing or missing of it to dance again.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Of course. It's the same thing as when somebody we love passes away. You're going to feel grief, and, you're going to feel the sadness. And so when a relationship ends, that's why people call it a heartbreak, because you feel grief. You're grieving the loss of a relationship, the death of a relationship. And it's painful. It's actually one of the most painful things ever, is a heartbreak. And we don't want it to end because it feels good. But all the things that don't feel good also need to end. Those things need to end. And so that's why I keep bringing it back to the self, because relationship is a mirror. So if you're mirroring each other, and if you're coming from attracting your partner from a place of unhealed self, like wounds, old self, again, the trauma bonding, it becomes codependent, it becomes unhealthy. And it could be in a big way, right? Like the narcissist, empath, classic scenario where people have this victim mentality and then the other person is a perpetrator. One's an empath, one's a narcissist. It's classic case. Well, that comes from unhealed self, from past way false belief systems about yourself, from all these subconscious limiting belief systems or patterns, habits, right? Like old relationship patterns repeat themselves until you take the time in between relationships and you heal yourself, and you heal that within yourself. And you cannot expect for that to be healed by another. This is done by the self. It has to be done by yourself. And that's the only healing I believe in, is the one that we do. Of course, our friends can help us, they can assist us. I'm all about it. I mean, I'm a therapist, I'm a counselor, I'm an assistant to someone's healing. I do believe in therapy. I do believe in help. Absolutely seek help. Friends, even lovers can help you. Like when you meet a healed person, then it shows you what it's like to be treated in a kinder way, in a better way. But it's different because that person can shine light and bring you up to your higher self, to your higher self-worth, versus coming from a place of, I need you to heal me. I need you to love me. I need you to complete me. And that's what I'm talking about, is eliminating that need for another person to do these things for you. Because when you're whole and complete and you're coming from a place of, hey, I'm sovereign, I'm good with myself, even if I'm not in a relationship, I'm happy. I have a solid connection and relationship with God and the universe and energy and myself. And I don't need another person to complete me. I just have so much love to give. Then you're going to radiate love. You're going to have love to share. And when two people come from this place of wholeness, then they both give to each other. And that's how the yin yang works. That's how it actually properly works. So you have a yin yang. It's not like one person comes from like, I need you to give me this, and another, I need you. So both people are taking. Subconsciously, this happens. Within the chakra system, it happens. And you feel it when you're around people like that, even if you're not in a, romantic relationship, even as a friend, you can feel when someone is needy, when they're like not healed and they always need your time. They need your energy. They need your healing. They need your money. They need your something, and it's draining. And that's the difference, is being with someone who gives you love and you give them love. It's a healthy, functioning relationship. If it's not that, the differences will be very apparent soon. Maybe, you're in the honeymoon phase with somebody and it's great. Of course, when you're in a honeymoon, everything's perfect. The person's perfect. There can do no wrong. This is it. We're getting married. This is my person. Finally, I found the love. But then later on, these differences and these unhealed self wounds are going to be very apparent in the relationship.
How do you differ relationship and love? Because, it's interesting. So friendship is one of the most easy. It's the easiest to be lack of needs or less needy in a relationship. Like I have friends from, elementary school, high school that I can easily call without speaking to in months or come back together. I mean, you and I just innately, it's like we come together, it's all good. We don't need anything from each other. We're catching up. But once intimacy comes into play, it seems as though that there's more sticky energy. Maybe it's because that type of deeper connecting brings more up. And then we want to put boundaries around it. Let's keep me safe inside of this container, and to do that. But we don't do that in our friendships. How, like, reconciling that of playing in this realm of, and of course, I'll caveat too, like, our attention is the most valuable thing that we have to share. And yeah, so how do you reconcile the boundaries and this is what I need to connect more deeply with me?
Well, the term intimacy, the word, the idea is it's about into me, I see. That's how I look at it. So when you're having an intimate relationship with somebody, right? Like, think of your intimate relationships. They can be non-sexual as well, but the deepest relationships we have are the sexual and love intimate relationships. And that's because we open up our mind, our heart, and our root. And so in our root chakra, like, literally, that stores everything from our childhood. That's our deepest subconscious stuff, is all there. So when you're connecting with someone sexually, all that stuff will come out. All that stuff will be brought up to the surface. So it's a lot deeper than connecting with someone just with your heart and your mind. It's the deepest form of connection, and it's the deepest healing there is. There's actually, from my experience, and trust me, I have done everything you can imagine and more to heal myself. I've been on this path of healing for like 16 years since I had a spiritual awakening, and I've been seeking healing. And all the healing modalities I've taught myself, I've learned, I went to school for, I went to endless workshops, classes. I've hired shamans, gurus, healers, everything, teachers you can imagine to help me heal. And I'll tell you this, even nature medicines, I've done ayahuasca, I've done mushrooms, peyote, you name it, all with the intention to heal myself, to heal the limiting beliefs, the blocks. I want to be free, right? I want to be happy. I want to be abundant. What is blocking me? But out of all those things, the deepest healing I have received is from these intimate relationships, because nobody else can get into us. And especially as women, literally, as a man enters you, and they're literally in you. So they will stir up all of that stuff. They'll bring up all your childhood issues with your parents, right? With your mom, with your dad, all your issues with money, abundance, security, earth, home, body issues, everything to do with the physical realm, because that's what the root is. It's all the stuff we have and about this earth realm we're in. That's the physicality of our body, and that's the sexuality of it. So you can have relationships with a girlfriend that are intimate, right? Like, you can connect on a very deep heart level, and that is intimacy. But the deepest form of intimately connecting with another and healing, and if you're really open to it, notice that these relationships will bring up all your traumas, all the triggers. And so instead of blaming the other person, projecting yourself and saying, oh, you did this to me, you're doing this, you're causing me to feel this way, that's still victim mentality. You have to go beyond it and take your power back and realize that you created this. There's a part of you that's relating with this person. That's a mirror for you to see. And so when a relationship ends, it means that this mirror is no longer your image, that you've moved beyond it. You're ready to see yourself in a different way, in a different person. And when you do the work and look at the triggers and look at what came up in the relationship, and you do the deep healing work with forgiveness, with therapy, with self-love, with nature, with earth, with all the healing tools, meditation, yoga, breath work, prayer, all those things, right? Help. But when you do the work, then you can move to a higher frequency, a higher level with connecting with yourself. And then you will be met by another person on this level in a higher way, in a more balanced way, in a happier way, where you won't be fighting as much or ever, hopefully, right? Where you'll always be in joy and laughing and making love and, exploring the world together. That's ultimately the goal, right? We all want that kind of love. But why do so few people have that? Why do so few people have that for a long time? Like, how many happy relationships do you know that have been together for 10 years or longer? I mean, not many, right?
Yeah. So,
sad.
So what's the answer to that? What's the answer to the question?
From my perspective, and I travel the world, I have tons of friends, and I'm always talking to people, clients, and the percent is very little, very not a lot, sadly. And I've been wondering that, like, why is it that we can't get that thing that we want the most? But it all has to do with ourselves and how we project and how we, create these relationships out of these unhealed parts of ourselves. And so, again, it just comes back to the self.
So with you,
most people don't love themselves. You got to realize this. The way a person treats you is not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of how they love themselves. And I realized that, and I realized this recently, and I was like, okay, I just don't. We didn't vibe anymore. We're on a different frequency. Not worse or better. Not judging anything or anyone. It's just different. You're going to be on a different frequency, and in a different frequency, you don't see each other on that frequency because you're mismatched. You're in a different vibe.
So with you, you've been doing this healing work for years, you've said. Like, well, first off, what are you healing from?
Well, past traumas. I come from communist Romania, and I lived through a revolution. So there's that. I lived through a divorce. My parents got divorced when I was little. There's that. I had major daddy issues, quote unquote. I had abandonment issues. So subconsciously, I created a story about my father leaving our family and me. And I created the story that I wasn't worthy of love, because if I was, he would have stayed. Mm-hmm. And it's a false story, of course. He left because he had his own life, his own issues to deal with, and they had nothing to do with me or how much he loved me. And so then subconsciously, because that's what I knew, that's what felt, quote unquote, comfortable, because that's what I knew as a child, is being abandoned, being left by my dad. I manifested in my later years when I started dating these men. They're emotionally unavailable for a longer time. Like, we had a honeymoon phase, which it was like beautiful and awesome and fun and loving. Then as later time went by, they would leave because I was creating these relationships out of my unhealed story of what a man does in a family, in a partnership. And so I had to go in deeply and heal that and create a new story for myself, a new story with my father, and to forgive him for leaving, and to forgive everyone for all the trauma. Everyone has some kind of trauma that you see, and some people have a lot more than others. Thank God I don't have crazy, like, I don't have any sexual trauma, thank God, but I do work with a lot of women who do. I help a lot of traumatized women, and it's actually sad and crazy how many women, I think probably most women have some kind of sexual trauma or some kind of wounding similar with their fathers, their mothers. It's always the origin is the family, the core family. And so that takes a long time to unravel from if you're doing it on your own. That's why I believe in therapy. And from my experience, hypnotherapy works the best because it works on behavior modification immediately. You're not just talking, you're actually creating positive, new positive beliefs in your mind. And I do tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping, which helps release the actual trauma from the body, from the mind in a very deep way, and identifies the core wounds. And then I work with forgiveness. And ultimately, forgiveness heals everything when you really understand. And if you really are seeking healing, I highly recommend doing a combination of those things. From my experience, 14 years working for 14 years as a therapist and as a guide and as a energy healer. I also do Reiki and sound healing and intuitive. So I could actually see a person's chakras and emotional blocks when I start to work with them. And from my experience, that's what works the most to eliminate traumas. And to tell you the truth, the traumas we carry subconsciously is what leads people to have addictions, all kinds of addictions, whether alcohol or drugs or sex or porn or shopping, all these things, we use to numb ourselves out, make ourselves feel better, validate us, like social media can be an addiction to validate us, to make us feel good, to make us feel happy, to elevate our mood, right? And if you didn't receive that as a child, of course, you're going to learn to get it from alcohol or your friends or social media or drugs or whatever it is. And so from my experience, these are symptoms of the traumas we carry. So that's why I work with the core issues, because when you eliminate the core issues in your subconscious mind, then all these behavior patterns, these unhealthy behavior patterns fall away. You will just not want those things anymore because you're happy on your own. You're at peace. Why would you need anything when you're, blissed out in meditation and you're, at peace with yourself and with your life? You don't need anything or anyone.
What would you tell, I've had what I work with a lot of men on is that they'll share that they're scared to break a woman's heart. And it's interesting if we, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and our capacity to love is so great. And I think that there's probably some fear in some men around that. And for me, I've always looked at it like, well, each person owns their own heart. I own my own heart. You own your own heart. We can be gentle with each other's hearts and to, trust that whatever transmission somebody needs, that experience that you're providing or that don't be afraid of breaking a heart. But what would you tell a man or a woman who is fearful of creating that for somebody else?
Well, the heart is a muscle, right? And the heart breaks so it can grow, like all muscles that grow. So it's the place of vulnerability where you have the most healing, where you experience the most love by being vulnerable. And of course, there's no guarantees to anything in life. There's no guarantees. You just always have to take a chance. But if it feels good in your core and your heart, you're going to go for it because love is a force. You can't stop it. It's going to happen. It's energy. It's just pure energy. And you can't stop it. Like, how can and why would you stop falling in love with someone? And that's the thing, is if you have fear in your system, that also indicates wounding. That also indicates trauma from the past. And maybe it is a trauma of having had your heart broken. That can be traumatic. Of course, betrayal is traumatic. It's very traumatic to be betrayed by a partner, to find out your partner cheated on you or lied to you or used you or manipulated you or whatever. It's painful. But if you carry pain and fear in your system, then what's the solution to that? It's more love, right? It's more love, not less. And so the only way we can heal and release those fears is by opening to more love and realizing that you never, quote unquote, lose love. That's ridiculous. And love is infinite. And that's what I'm talking about. When you're connected to yourself, to your source, to God, whatever you call this force, source, I call it the universe, I call it God, not in a religious sense, but like a spiritual energy, like love. Love is a force. And I do believe that the universe is this pure energy, and I tap into it in meditation and I fill myself up. And that's where I give Reiki from. That's where I give to others from. So I'm never depleted when I work with people because it's not my energy I'm giving. That's very egoical. That's very ego, right? Like we have our ego that wants to protect us from, don't go too far. Don't, lose control. Don't give away your, blah, blah, blah. It's like all these stories because the ego is afraid always of dying because it's limited. The ego is limited. Our bodies are limited. Yes, we will all die eventually. You don't have to fear death. It will happen. But when you make peace with that, when you go into that fear, when you go into the fear of, okay, yeah, this person could break my heart. I'm being vulnerable and open right now. But in that vulnerability is the greatest, that's the nectar for all the love, for being open. Because you're opening yourself up to the divine, to God, to the universe. And that's infinite love. And it's not, again, it's not coming from another person, but it's coming from something higher than both of you. And there's a whole different way of relating than this ego, body to body, where you're soul merging. And when you open your heart in that way, it's just the most beautiful experience.
You brought up lust. In your words, how would you differentiate? How does somebody know whether it's love or lust? And I'll caveat this question a little bit of, I was having a conversation with a girlfriend yesterday, and for me, and maybe this is the Venus aspect, it's like I move from love. I want to be in a practice of love. I don't necessarily lust after somebody. Maybe there's some of that's mixed in, that's pulling me to spark some type of like touch, I'll say, like a feeling from within that person that opens me up. But then it's like love is right there on the other end. But I also see that the male psyche, and again, maybe I'm making this up, but it's like the male psyche, I think, can more move from lust into love. What do you see?
One of my girlfriends said this, and it resonates. She said that, men fall in love with their eyes, women fall in love with their ears. So meaning that men are more visually driven. They like aesthetics and beautiful women. They appreciate that. And women, they fall in love with what we're being told, with the words, right? Like how often does that happen, that you believe that the man tells you like, oh, we're going to have a family together. I can't wait to marry you. I want to have children with you. So we believe these things because we want them to be true. And we start to imagine this future life together and their potential and the potential of the relationship. So I think women are more, again, a little differently wired than men. Not to say there's more masculine type of women and or more feminine type of men. It's kind of fluid in that regards. I'm just speaking about the masculine and the feminine principles, and so it's they're a little different. So that's the thing, is to how do we make it work? How do we join polarity so we make one whole and happy units from two people that come from two different places, So yeah, I think everyone's different. I think everyone's unique. And I think the more authentic you are, meaning you're speaking your truth, you're living your truth, and communicating your truth and your needs in a relationship from the beginning, saying what you want. I think good communication is one of the main pillars of a healthy, functioning relationship. Another pillar is unconditional love. Another one is trust. And another one is co-creation. So when you have these pillars, you have four-legged foundation, kind of like a chair or a table that creates a sturdy structure. And that's the only way you can have a healthy relationship. I've come up with this a few years ago, and I still have that as my guidance. And I always look for not just my intimate partnerships, but now I look for my friendships as well. If I don't trust a friend, or a person, then that's never going to be a healthy, functioning relationship for me. If I don't have good communication, if we're not communicating in a healthy way, it's not going to work. It's going to be something's going to go amiss, and there's always going to be arguments and blamings. And, so you have to have these four pillars. I think it's very important. And again, this has to do also with the relationship you have with yourself. Ultimately, it always comes back to yourself. Do you trust yourself? Are you a good communicator with yourself? Do you speak your truth? Do you live your truth? Are you authentic? Are you authentic in your life? Actually, I saw a chart 2 days ago, and it said that, the chart that says that high vibrational energy is like the frequency of love and peace. You vibrate higher, and grief and jealousy and shame and guilt and fear is like a lower vibration. It shows the spectrum with the colors. So it said that actually authenticity is way up there. It's even higher than love. And it's very surprising. I was like, really? Who made this chart? Then I thought about it, and I was like, wow, it's very meaningful, because when you're authentic with yourself, then you are going to speak your truth. You are going to act out of that place. You're going to live your life in that way, and you're going to manifest those relationships, friendships or partnerships, especially intimate relationships that mirror these values, these qualities back to you, because you are frequency beings. Everything's vibration in this universe. It's all energy. We are energy. It all looks solid, but it's more quantum. It's actually more not solid than solid. That's why you can heal so fast. That's why you can move through, traumas faster when you know how to, when tap into that, other than just, the old-fashioned healing takes time kind of thing. So yeah, working with energy in that way is really liberating, and working with yourself ultimately is the ultimate liberation and freedom and joy. Because when you have love then in yourself, then you'll always attract the people who also do that and will reflect that back to you. Yeah,
so beautiful. Thank you for this conversation today, and sharing your wisdom. I would actually be interested in doing a session with you. I'm so curious to explore. If somebody is interested in doing that, where do they find you?
My website is higherself-healing.com. And you can send me a message, or you can find me on Instagram, higherself-healing. And my name is Anna Bliss, and I'm here for you. It's my passion, as yours is to bring about more love into the world and more healing. And thank you so much, Christina. I love this conversation. I love everything you're doing to bring about these conversations and more love into the world.
Thank you. You too. And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Deepen with Christina. Again, if you did enjoy this podcast, please do like, subscribe, follow, rate it, give it 5 stars. Helps more people find it, helps me continue to host it. Also, I apologize. We didn't turn off those little beep beeps from the messenger as we started recording this podcast. So lesson learned. And hopefully that didn't get in the way of your listener experience. Okay. Bye for now, everybody. Mwah.
Bye.